Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to move the yarn back and forth between a knit stitch and a purl stitch, whether you're knitting Continental style or you're knitting English style. Before I get into that, I wanted to show you really quick what your fabric is going to look like now that you know how to do both a knit stitch and a purl stitch. On this piece of fabric, you're going to see primarily knit stitches. See all the little V's that are in there? All these little V's and columns of V's. These are all knit stitches. Oh, except for this one and this one. I don't know if you can see the little bumps that are sitting there. Those are purls. Purls always make bumps. And you can tell which stitch is your purl stitch on this side because this bump falls at the bottom of the loop. So above this bump right here is the purl stitch. So I can look at that and know that just this guy right here is a purl. That whole thing, including the bump, is a purl. So this side of your fabric is called stockinette, where you see all these. The other side of the fabric is called reverse stockinette, where you see purls. And the way that you create stockinette and reverse stockinette is by knitting a row and then purling a row, and then knitting a row and then purling a row. If you knit every row, I don't know if you recall from one of the other videos, I showed you what garter stitch looks like. And this is garter stitch. Garter stitch creates like a vertical, or I should say horizontal, like horizontal ribbing, because it's worked across like this. And this would be either, in this case, every row was knitted or every row was purled. You're going to get the same exact result either way that you do it, because the opposite side of a knit stitch is a purl stitch, and the opposite side of a purl stitch is a knit stitch, which you can definitely see when you look at stockinette and reverse stockinette. Okay, now, switching your yarns back and forth between a purl stitch and a knitted stitch. First, I'm going to show you how to do that in English style. And remember, English is where you're holding your yarn in your right hand. So I'll tension my yarn in my right hand, and I'm going to insert and I'm going to knit the first stitch. Then, in order to purl the next stitch, I need to bring my yarn forward. I need more tension. Bring my yarn forward and insert the needle and purl. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about how to work the stitches because that's somewhere else. This is all about moving the yarn back and forth. So I've purled a stitch, now I want to knit a stitch. Now the yarn needs to go back behind again. And we insert and knit. And then the yarn comes forward again. And I purl. And, whoops, yarn goes back. I'm going to knit. And then yarn comes forward. And I'm going to purl. Essentially what you do when you create a piece of fabric that you've knitted one stitch and you've purled the next is if you create them on the same vertical columns, you'll create ribbing. And if you create them on alternating columns, you create what is called a seed stitch. So like I said, once you know how to work the purl stitch and the knit stitch, you can pretty much do anything you want. And I hope you're getting a gist of moving the yarn back and forth for a purl stitch and a knit stitch. As you can see in each one, I'm always moving the yarn around the needle in the same direction. I just need to move the needle to the front or the back. And that was how to move the yarn back and forth. Every other one was created using a purl stitch, then a knit stitch, then a purl stitch, then a knit stitch. Now I'm going to work my way back, and I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to do it in Continental. Now, Continental is where you hold the yarn in your left hand. So again, I'm going to knit the first one. See, my yarn is in back. And then I'm going to purl the second one. My yarn is now in front. Oops, dropped it. Oops, dropped it. Then I'm going to knit the next one, and I move the yarn to the back. Then I'm going to purl, and my yarn's in front. I'm going to knit my yarns in back, purling my yarns in front, knit my yarns in back, purl, front, knit, back, purl, front, knit, back. I think you're getting what I'm trying to tell you here. When you knit and purl and have to go back and forth between one to the other, Continental to me is the way to go. Now, I'm not really trying to convince you of that. I just wanted to demonstrate to you the difference between the two and let you make up your mind, because it's all up to you in the end. I'm just trying to give you as much information as you can, and then you can decide which one you want to work on. Either way is okay. My opinion, Continental is faster, but some people have tensioning problems with Continental, and therefore they prefer what their stitches look like when they knit in English style. So you're going to have to weigh what works best for you and make your decision, and hopefully I've provided you with enough information to do that. Thanks a lot. Bye.